Hello, welcome back to Vintage Recipe Hero, where this week we're going to be making meatloaf, which is a totally American and retro classic. Whether you love or hate meatloaf, I always dreaded it when I had it for dinner as a kid. This meatloaf is a little bit different than the one you probably grew up with. This recipe is from the Betty Crocker Recipe Card collection from 1971, published by General Mills, and it is called Ribbon Meatloaf. There's not actually any ribbons in this. Everything is completely edible. What the ribbon is a middle layer of cheese, bread, and egg whites. Now they give you the option of either cheddar cheese or blue cheese, so I splurged and went with a really nice old crumbly cheddar. Blue cheese would also be lovely. I'm curious to try it, but for me, even though I like blue cheese, I'm probably okay with a few bites every couple of months. I don't need a whole meatloaf filled with blue cheese layer, but that's your choice. So let's make this meatloaf and see what it's like. The best way to mix a meatloaf is with one hand. You want to have your other hand on the side of the bowl because just like when you make bread, it's like always good to have one clean hand to twist the bowl around, to grab things, to turn on the tap. Always good to have one clean hand. This is either a love or hate thing. I love mixing meat. I love scooping the guts out of pumpkins. I love feeling things. Just like making a meat cake. Okay, let's give this a slice. I'm just going to use a butter knife because this is really soft. And I said it was juicy. Even after I took it out of the pan, it's still been excreting juice. Oh boy. I can't tell if it looks like absolutely delicious and cheesy and bready or if it looks disgusting. But that's kind of the nature of meatloaf. There it is. Okay, the ribbon meatloaf is done, and as I already said, it is so juicy. Even with 5 slices of bread in this, it's still leaking juice. I'm not really sure what to do with all the juice. Also, it said in the recipe to rip up your bread slices into small pieces, which I thought I did, but apparently they weren't small enough because you can see some like little chunks. So next time I would rip them up even smaller. All that's left to do now is to taste this ribbon meatloaf, but before I taste it, I just want to read to you a little passage about meatloaf from the Women's Day Encyclopedia of Cookery. Today's recipe did not come from this book, but I thought that there was a really nice piece about meatloaves in here. How to Cook Superbly Meatloaves by Helen Evans Brown. There's nothing lowly about a meatloaf if it's carefully seasoned, baked to the just right degree, and served with an appropriate sauce. In fact, it then becomes an Epicurean delight. It can be further glamorized by baking it in a ring or other fancy mold, packing it with hidden surprises, or masking it with a beautiful crust of mashed potatoes or rich, flaky pastry. Meatloaves are inexpensive too. They can be made ahead and baked at the last minute, served hot or cold, and they are so easy that even a brand new cook can make them superbly. And that's the passage about meatloaves. Now it's time to try this ribbon meatloaf. I'm a little bit scared. Not scared, just nervous. I don't really like meatloaf. I don't know why I chose a meatloaf recipe. It smells very meaty. That cheese in the middle is so good though. You know what? It's okay. Seasonings are fine. The onion in it is nice. Wish I smooshed the bread a little bit more. I hope my fiance is ready to eat meatloaf for the next month, because I think that's enough for me. Okay, well, as I suffer through the rest of this slice, I hope that you decide to try and make this meatloaf at home. It is honestly, for a meatloaf, it's pretty good and it's very simple. Probably budget friendly too. I mean, I got my ground pork 50% off, boom. For meatloaf lovers, for cheeseburger lovers, you should all try this retro ribbon meatloaf recipe. For people who don't like meatloaf like me, maybe give it a miss, unless you're just very curious, because the picture is quite enticing, is it not? Thanks so much. I'll see you next week for another fun recipe from Vintage Recipe Hero. Bye-bye.